Hey friends, thanks for joining me for today's video. I get to review for you two lovely new fragrances from the House of Mind Games. These are on the website for Mind Games, but sort of officially launched today, particularly on the So Avant-Garde website. So Avant-Garde and Mind Games sent these over for review. They are Opera Mate and Counterplay. I have worn both of these fragrances at this point, full day wears and tested here and there in addition to that, and have fully formed thoughts on both of these fragrances that I'm ready to share. Now, these are right on the heels of two other releases. Prodigy and Mentor, which I also reviewed in a video recently. If you haven't checked that out, the thumbnail looks like this. And I will link all of this down in the description box, including my full house review for Mind Games fragrances if you're interested, as well as links to these two beauties. If you are watching this on December 2nd, Monday, I do have a special code that you can use if you're interested in shopping for any of these fragrances. It is Veronica BF for Black Friday, but it sort of stands for best friend. Just kidding. Veronica BF for 15% off of your entire order site wide. Past today, if you're shopping past December 2nd, you can just use Veronica 10 for 10% off of your entire order. Or you can just watch the video and enjoy without shopping, friends. There is no pressure to go purchase any of these. These two are really, really interesting new releases. Just like Mentor and Prodigy were very well liked in Fragcom, I think these two will be as well. So let's get into these two reviews. My spoiler alert, I like both of these fragrances a lot, and there is one that I like even more than the other. So we're going to start off with that fragrance first, and it is Opera Mate. I want to say Opera House, but the name is Opera Mate. And so the packaging looks like this. If you're interested in that, the fragrance retails for $375. And remember, you got that code Veronica BF for 15% off today only, and then Veronica 10 after that. So I sprayed this one first, and it was an immediate, strong like, leaning into love territory. The notes for this fragrance at the top, roasted chestnut, grapefruit zest. I don't get any grapefruit in this fragrance at all, nothing even close to it. Labdanum. And then in the middle, creme brulee, Savannah, vetiver. I don't pick up any vetiver. And in the dry down, suede, caramel, and santal or sandalwood. So this fragrance reminds me of a few other fragrances. So I want to talk about that in a minute, but it is very sort of gourmand, warm in nature, and fantastic for the fall and winter season. Cozy, sweaty. Cozy sweater weather fragrance. We don't want to be sweaty. We want sweater weather fragrance. We don't want to be sweaty. Anyway, this is your perfect sort of by the fireplace kind of scent. And so it is my scent of the day. It is very warm. It comes across nutty. It comes across caramelly, and it comes across smooth and silky and like a warm, woody base to it. I would not sniff this and say I immediately smell sandalwood or any of the specific notes in the base. I would say that it's just sort of a warm, woody, cozy base. The nuttiness in the fragrance is distinguishable. And I also feel like this has sort of a creamy texture to it. So it is fairly gourmand and slightly woody in nature. And I've worn this all day today, and I'm still smelling it on myself quite nicely. It is a very sort of soft scent bubble. This isn't an across the room screaming, projecting fragrance. This is a nice, cozy scent bubble and fairly smooth and long lasting with no rough edges. The fragrance gives me vibes of Madeline from Mask Milano. If you've smelled that, that one is a little bit more peanut buttery in smell. And it also has something a little bit sort of harsh about it if you're not used to it. But a lot of folks love that fragrance. Very sort of soft, cuddly, nutty, slightly creamy, slightly even maybe milky at times, soft fragrance. This one with the roasted chestnut and the creme brulee make it a little bit more creamy, desserty, gourmand in texture and in tone and in experience to your nose than perhaps a fragrance that is known more just for its nutty aspects. The other fragrance that this reminded me of almost immediately, but not quite, is Black Phantom from Killian. That one is a little bit more masculine. I would say this is probably more purely unisex than Black Phantom, which is also a gorgeous fragrance and also has a little bit more of that peanut butter type of smell to it than this does. This is more purely in the nutty direction. Peanut butter has a certain kind of smell to it that is very distinguishable. This is just general roasted nuts of some sort or another, with that woody base and, like I said, a creaminess to it. This is really warm and cozy and quite delightful as like a winter gourmand that isn't purely in the edible direction. I don't find the fragrance to be sweet. I do find it to be creamy and very, very easy wearing. And it gives you this nostalgic feeling as soon as you spray it on. So this to me was a big win. A note from the perfumer Christelle Laprade. I hope I'm saying that name correctly. Opera Mate was heavily influenced by the exquisite raw ingredients themselves. So, by the way, if you're not familiar with mind games, and one of the reasons that the prices are so high is the ingredients that are used are very high quality. Vetiver and sandalwood are two of my favorite fragrance notes. Like I said, I don't pick up like a distinct vetiver in this fragrance at all. Both have a toasted, caramelized quality, yes, that adds warmth and addiction to these typically clean, musky ingredients. The juxtaposition of familiar, comforting sweetness and luxurious, elevated ingredients is what makes Opera Mate special. It was a pleasure to create a fragrance that played with this contrast and captured the visceral pleasure of rediscovering more mainstream notes in a new and unfamiliar way. I think this is just lovely. Really, really quite lovely. In fact, I put my Madeline up for sale, the Mask Milano one, because I prefer this to it. Black Phantom I like a lot, but there were some parts of that fragrance that maybe make it a little bit much to wear after a while, like a little bit cloying. I find this to just remain pleasant through its entire wear, comforting, cozy, nostalgic, creamy, warm, addictive. Very, very nice. Opera Mate, not Opera House, Opera Mate. Let's move on to the second fragrance. So the second release, and one that my husband went bananas, or should I say melons over when I wore it. Like he was beside himself like, "Wow, that is a really really lovely smell." This one is called Counterplay and comes in a more silvery bottle, still with the same sort of ombre effect. Really pretty bottle. And let me tell you about the notes in this one. The top notes, melon, guava, and banana. And I do think that you pick up all three of those nuances when you first spray this on pretty distinctly. In the middle, osmanthus, which is like an apricot note for those of you that are not familiar. Ylang-ylang, which also can have this sort of creamy, maybe even a musky, buttery type of banana-esque texture to it, and orange blossom. In the dry down or in the base, sandalwood, patchouli, and pink pepper. And so the distinctive notes in here and the star of the show is the mixture of those fruity notes at the top, melon, guava, banana. This has both this sort of island exotic scent to it as well as this fruity type of deal. And the thing that it reminds me of the most, and it's such a nostalgic smell from my childhood and a taste. So taste, as you know, and smell are very closely related. The really fruity now-laters, now and laters is what they're called, but, we just abbreviate it to now-laters, now-laters. Now and later candies. So some of the now and later candies were more tart and maybe a little bit sour, okay, to the taste. And then there were other ones that were very sort of banana-esque and fruity in nature when they melted in your mouth. They have this sort of creaminess to them. And it gives you the sense of like a powderiness in your nose. Okay, as you taste them, you imagine this sense of like a powder, a dense powder, a creaminess, bananas and tropical fruits together. That scent and taste is what I remembered immediately upon spraying on Counterplay. I have to remember these names because I want to call them something different. I want to call this Opera House and I want to call this Counter Move instead of Counterplay. So it has a distinct now and later type of taste and smell to it, the sweet ones, not the tart ones that I think are just lovely. The floral aspects of this are fantastic as well. If you have smelled Juice by Commodity, the expressive version of that, it has a little touch of sort of the like exotic tones in Leisure in Paradise from Simone Andrioli. And it has some of the like fruity floral muskiness. I know there's not musk in here, but that same kind of feeling that you get from Blooming Bouquet from Miss Dior, a combination of all of those in this fragrance. This is lovely. The one caution I would say about this is when you spray it on and you smell it close up, it's a little bit much. You're like, "Whoa, that is a little too like heavily fruity." And has a little touch of almost like a plasticiness when you smell up close. So you've got to smell from a little bit far away, at least a foot away to kind of get the way that this all works together. This also leaves a very nice scent bubble. The day that I gave this a full day wear, people were smelling this on me well into the 6 to 8 hour mark, which for me is a long lasting fragrance. So for me, this is a fragrance that performs pretty well and I think reads well to people in the room. My son thought that I smelled really good in this as well. If you don't know what guava smells like, it's a really difficult note to describe or scent to describe if you've eaten guava. It's very juicy and makes your mouth water. It does have a little tiny bit of tartness, but I wouldn't call this a tart fragrance because of the way that the other notes play with it. And it definitely gives you some of like honeydew melon with cantaloupe combined. Like if you think about like a melon salad, if you cut up fresh melons, maybe even a little bit of strawberry with the sweetness and the creaminess and the roundness of like a banana note. This is really quite a cool fragrance. So again, both of these fragrances are available on the Mind Games fragrance website. I think they should also be available on So Avant-Garde today, and past today, you can use the code Veronica10 if you are shopping today and interested. Veronica BF works on Mind Games fragrance website only for 15% off of both of these and site wide. Anything you purchase site wide. Let us know if you have tried either Counterplay or Oprimate and what your thoughts are on these. This is definitely a more feminine leaning fragrance. And then this one is more unisex. I think some ladies will probably find this to lean a tad bit on the masculine side. I don't think so at all. I think it's perfectly unisex with the gourmand facets and the sort of woody base to it. Really delightful, both of them. Oprimate is my favorite of the two, and then Counterplay is my husband's favorite on me and my son's favorite on me. So, those are my thoughts on both of these fragrances. Let me know your thoughts or if you're interested in trying these out. Thanks so much for hanging out today. Have a fantastic day. Bye, friends.